Welcome to another Untimely review. I have a slight retraction before getting started because I said that the past two Scooby-Doo reviews were the first I finished the series. I obviously forgot that I did the Fantastic Four movies, and I think that's honestly a better review of those movies than I could have done. But we've been doing a lot of family-friendly movies recently, and at the request of the homie here, this time we're reviewing Good Boys.
Pause, what the fuck?
Let's get right into the story. So major spoilers for insert something funny here.
Wait, that can't be right.
The movie starts with this kid, Max, playing Raid Shadow Legends on his Mac, and because he doesn't know what the magical time of 3 a.m. is yet, he's making this orc as thick as those sliders will let him.
Oh, that's nasty.
He tries to tie his door to his bed to keep it locked, it fails, and his dad busts in like Max wants to.
I'm about to bust.
To tell him he's leaving for his flight. His dad realizes why Max has a charger tied to his door, and being the nice but overstepping father that he is, says how proud he is of his son for sexually masturbating himself. And now, I'm actually pretty happy that I'm not monetized because this shit wouldn't work otherwise. We get the title reveal and a little pump song. I had the subtitles on, I wouldn't know otherwise. Don't look at me like that.
Let's just get back to the movie.
And the first conversation we hear is about how this kid's babysitter told him that everyone in the 6th grade gets hand jobs. Alright. Couple things here. First, so this is what you wanted me to watch, huh? This is how you get your sick kicks. And 2, damn, I missed out in 6th grade. We also hear that this little gang's name is the Beanbag Boys. The Triple Bs stop to see these two people, and we see that this guy's in college and she's not, which to me is a huge red flag. FBI! Next scene, the boys are playing Magic the Gathering. This girl, for no reason, tells them that she knows what cocaine is, but the boys are pure and know that drugs are bad and say that they'll never take them because they destroy lives and communities. This kid, whose name the subtitles told me was Thor, wow, makes fun of Max because he wants to see his little chocolate baby girl at the skate park. A YK Osiris song plays, and I gotta see who the fuck was responsible for this soundtrack. I couldn't find a music supervisor in the credits, so Rick Ziegler, you must have seen the XXL freshman list and went nuts with this one, huh? We see Max giving lovey-dovey eyes to Brixley in a daydream-like series of flashbacks, but Thor's sister Annabelle pops up again to freak the boys out. Sometime later, the boys are at the skate park being fucking posers, just watching everyone else skate or bike, and we get some mystery as to if Brixley is feeling the boy Max. We find out that the last Beanbag Boy's name is Lucas, like the homie Lucas Sims. He dips out for veggie lasagna, which means his life is in shambles, and some scooter boys led by a kid named Atticus like it's the fucking 1930s. Insert the Kill a Mockingbird reference! Pull up to Max and Thor to show them something cool. That something cool is sipping a beer in a drainage ditch like crackheads, and while Max takes a sip, Thor doesn't want to because he's a good little boy and drops the beer in the ditch. Picking up with Lucas, his parents are getting divorced. Hey, I was right about his life being in shambles, but that still kinda sucks, oh well. And the funniest transition happens with Lucas at school singing "I'm Walking on Sunshine" while tears are falling from his eyes. Because of Atticus being a little dickhead, Thor scratches his name off the sign-up sheet for the musical auditions, and we see at lunch that Lucas is embarrassed to talk about his parents getting divorced because he stops himself from saying it. We see that the coolest kid in school is this one named Soren, and he invites Max to a party at his house and that this party is special. It's a kissing party. Max gets Thor and Lucas to go, and because they're regular kids in 6th grade and aren't just tonguing down other 11 to 12-year-olds, God, this video's gonna sound weird out of context. FBI, open up! Like any other young person born after 2000 who doesn't know how to do something, they turn to the internet, which as you can imagine is not where you should learn certain things. They see some things they weren't prepared for, memories, and Thor says that his parents have a CPR doll for them to practice on. It's not a CPR doll, and if you don't know what it is, you shouldn't be watching this, or really my channel at all, you pure little angel you. Lucas stops Max from kissing the doll because he didn't ask for consent, and I can't believe that it took this movie, out of all movies I've ever seen, to make consent an important part of the story. 10 out of 10, it can only go lower from here. Max gets traumatized without even knowing it yet, and because the doll isn't gonna give them the real experience, they go to Max's neighbor since, as he puts it,
she's a nymphomaniac, someone who has sex on land and sea.
I am learning so much about life from this movie. The gang can't see anything through the fence, so they go to take Max's dad's drone, which he specifically told him not to take before he left. So now we see these good boys go down a path of crime and naughtiness. We see that guy from earlier is a piece of shit because of like 3 different shitty things he does in the span of 5 minutes. Also, he runs away like this. Because Thor and Max fight over the controls, Max's neighbor and her friend are able to capture it. They go over to the girl's house with a lie. Oh my god.
That's no good.
But it's a setup, and they just tell them to go look up how to kiss online. Not the best advice, but I get where they're coming from. The girls keep the drone and send the boys on their way, but we see that Thor stole one of the girls' purses on the way out. When going through the purse, they find some chewable vitamins, and for some reason they want some. I guess they aren't used to the Flintstones vitamins because those shits are fucking terrible, but because there's a child's lock on it, they can't open it. God, this movie's funny. The girls call to get their stuff back, and they schedule a meeting for tomorrow at 7:40 a.m. The next day, Thor and Lucas are playing patty cake, and I cannot explain why it's funny to me, but just seeing these kids extort these girls for their drone back and then playing patty cake is just the peak of comedy for me. The gang find out that the girls just really wanted their Molly back, they find out what Molly is, and freak out about it and try to make a citizen's arrest. Lucas says this,
"Time out, crackheads!"
and through some clever diversion tactics are able to get the drone back for 5 seconds, and then it gets hit by a school bus. The boys run to school but see that the 2 girls are there waiting for them, and in their desperation they call the Student Coalition Against Bullying, or SCAB for short, to protect them. Lucas says this,
Stop thinking with your big old dick, Max.
Pause!
and the boys decide to ditch school, sell one of their expensive magic cards, and buy a new drone. They get a buyer named Peter Pan 69, who I know is a predator, but let's wait on the reveal. And in case the deal goes south, Thor brought his parents' weapons.
In this part of the video, I was gonna name off a bunch of different weapons from Norse mythology that Odin and Thor had, but like I don't really need to be that big of a nerd.
These are the weapons, by the way. So the guy shows up, he says he's not a predator, classic predator move, but before the deal goes through, Lucas pulls out,
Pause!
but the guy sees the CPR doll and buys that instead. The girls track the boys using the phone they stole, and this one chases them on foot like the Terminator because she really wants those drugs back.
Would you like some drugs?
Lucas slams hard into this truck and dislocates his arm, and the female Terminator dips out because of certain allegations they're saying about her. The boys try to pop Lucas's arm back in place, and it is one of the most painful scenes I've ever seen outside of like Saw or something, but the traumatizing experience makes Lucas open up about his parents' divorce.
Is that really like a positive thing though?
They go to get some children's Tylenol, which I feel like shouldn't be sold to minors, but I guess it's fine in this case. They do actually need it. A cop comes in, and because they have drugs on them, they get nervous around them. Lucas, being the goodest boy he can be, just blurts out that they skipped school. The cop lets them off multiple times because he just doesn't want to be bothered, but they are giving him a very difficult time.
I think I'm about to steal!
Triple B ends up running away anyway, barricading the cop in the convenience store with a leftover dildo, and then Nobody Speak by DJ Shadow plays, and it's the first song that I completely agree with. We only get LP's first verse, so it's alright. The game think that they made it to the mall, but they still have to cross the highway. They get stuck on the highway because they decided to check a text midway across, but they get across fine. Oh, also that CPR doll flies through a window and ends up on the pavement. They make it to the mall, but those girls already bought it, and Max is pissed. They meet up with the girls and decide that they will go get drugs for them. They just keep falling deeper and deeper into sin. The boys get a quick look into the real world, and the girls take the boys to a white trap house.
Which is a frat house, by the way. Could have just said that, but I think white trap house is funnier.
We see this guy being even more of a piece of shit. He gets shot in the head with a paintball at close range though, so it's all good. And the boys fight an entire frat house of dudes and win. Alright, movie is a 9 out of 10 now because this shit makes no sense. Everything gets cleared up, but Thor and Lucas are pretty tired after everything they just went through. Max's dad comes home early, so he flies the drone home, destroys his house in the process, but he gets it there, so that's something, I guess. But not really, because his dad figures it out very easily. Since Max is grounded now, him and Thor start arguing with each other, and we get that classic group breaking up scene 1 hour into this hour-and-a-half movie. Each boy goes their own way, even though they all live like on the same block. This weird dubbing thing with Max's dad happens,
But I no longer like you.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Something ain't right.
Thor doesn't get in trouble because Max takes the fall for everyone, and Lucas tells his parents a better recap than I'm doing right now, but they think he's lying because who's really gonna believe this story? Lucas goes to talk to Max while he's grounded, says this.
Hey, Max.
Yeah?
Bring that dick.
What the fuck?
And they both sneak out to go to the party. They meet up with Thor, and him and Max are still going at each other, and when they all get into the party, Max is finally introduced to Brixley. And then this man Max, oh, this little man Max, who's been waiting to give the girl of his dreams a necklace that he made, instead gives Brixley some anal beads instead. After that happens, Thor breaks the record for most sips of beer and gets the respect of all the 6th graders there. Soren, the popular kid, makes sure to stress that consent is important. The movie's up to a 9.5 now. They spin the bottle and it is fucking gross. Lucas sees it, agrees with me, and goes upstairs to play VR like the upstanding gentleman that he is. Thor, being a good friend now, doesn't kiss Brixley when it's his turn. Max and Thor make up, and Max asks, respectfully, to kiss Brixley. While Thor and Lucas are talking upstairs, the 2 girls from earlier pop up. We find out that one of them is related to Soren, and they are fucking zooted out of their minds, and they convince Thor to sing for them since he missed his audition. And while he's singing, we see the different paths that each of them take, and Max is having the worst time throughout the montage. The montage ends at the school musical, and at the after party at Thor's house, the Beanbag Boys make a promise to always be there for the big stuff, even if they don't talk all the time anymore. And then they howl, for some reason.
No wonder these fucking kids weren't popular earlier.
And the movie ends with the boys playing on a sex swing. Yep, that's the last thing you see before the credits. Well, now that the story's out of the way, what did I think? I went into this movie really thinking that it was gonna be trash, honestly. I thought that this movie was gonna be bad toilet humor and trying way too hard to be edgy with these kids, and there is a hint of that in certain scenes. Like I thought that the cop scene went on a little too long, and the highway scene also kinda seemed like a waste of time. Everything else to me was on point. This movie does a lot of what Rugrats does, where characters don't know what words mean, and that shit will always be funny to me. There's a point after they get to school before they ditch to go buy the drone when Thor says that now he's gonna be a social piranha when he means pariah, and that is just to me. When I looked up this movie, I saw that people compared it to Superbad, and while I haven't seen that movie, from what I have seen, I think that this movie might handle growing up way better. Again, I haven't seen it, but just from the vibe, the guys in Superbad come off way more annoying than the Beanbag Boys do here. That might be because these guys are probably the most innocent 6th graders I've ever seen, and speaking of innocence, I think that's the main theme of the movie. Ooh, talking about themes now, I'm upgrading the whole review process with this one. Throughout the movie, Max makes his friends do all types of illegal and somewhat immoral things for him, and while Lucas is mainly the goodiest of 2 shoes, even Thor is still apprehensive. The only difference is that Thor will act cool to try and offset that. The boys experience so much in the 2 or so days that the movie takes place over, and they lose a lot of the innocence that they start off with. I don't think it's necessarily to the detriment of the characters either. I think that it's more of an inevitability more than anything else, and at least they have each other to go through those changes together. But even that sense of togetherness is tested too. When the girls are driving the boys to the frat house and they tell them how being friends with someone changes as they get older, and then even though this is more for the audience than Lucas, when his parents tell him about his hermit Herman and how hermits need to find new shells to survive and how him and his friends might need that too, it shows that growing up doesn't mean you will lose your friends, it just means that there may be distance that grows between y'all, and that's okay. For a movie where kids play with dildos, kiss a sex doll, and try to buy drugs from a frat house, I think that those are pretty good messages to have. I mean, anyone who watches this should still be over at least 15 and should already have a sense of that, but it's still nice. Now let's talk about the acting real quick because I don't really have too much to even say about it. I think that Max, played by Jacob Tremblay, or Tremblay if you want to be fancy, Lucas, played by Keith L. Williams, and Thor, played by Brady Noon, all played their roles really well. For kids to be able to deliver some of these lines as well as they did with the right comedic timing, it was really fun to see. Lucas was my favorite, not just because they gave him the best lines, but because he was the only character that was genuine in how he was feeling. Yeah, sure, he's a fucking narc and you can't bring him around to do hood rat stuff with your friends, but that type of sincerity is something that I like to see in a character. The last thing that I'll say is while I do think that all of the boys did well during the emotional scenes, the tears they used look so fake that it's hilarious, and I don't know if that's on purpose or not. I definitely think that this movie is worth checking out. The comedy is really solid if you're like me and know that Rugrats comedy is the pinnacle, and having a funny but sort of feel-good story is something we all need from time to time. This is not a movie to just pop on to watch with the family though, because I don't think you really want to have to explain what a hand job is to a kid, or watch this kid sniff anal beads with your parents. But let me know what you think. Was this review a growing experience for you, or do you wish you were at a kissing party instead of listening to me? Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.